This is the Evergreen Simpsons pilot episode, which is funny because we're actually recording it after we recorded the other episodes, but we're creating a timeline of The Simpsons looking at what was happening historically in and off screen during the classic episodes of about the first 10 years of the show. My name is Chris Greenspawn.
I'm Felipe Flores.
So Felipe is a cartoonist and I'm a radio journalist. And what, in your opinion, are we doing here on this show, Felipe?
I think back to those memes that go around that say something like, Homer was born in 1995. Feel old?
Homer was what?
Well, I mean, if he's perpetually 30, that means he would have been born in 1995.
Okay.
But, I mean, if he was 30, he wouldn't be acting like the boomer that he's been acting like, that we know him as. So I don't think you could extract these characters from where they came from. And the further away you get from 1989, the more diluted the characters become, like a Xerox that keeps getting copied and copied and copied.
Yeah.
I think in this show, we need to anchor the timeline to the year 1989 and build from there.
Okay, so we're putting The Simpsons, like we said, on sort of a hard and fixed timeline where Homer was 34 in 1989 and therefore born in
1956.
And he graduated from high school in 1975?
1974.
Okay, so we're looking at it from there. We're looking at when, not only when characters were born, but what was going on during certain episodes. And why do we want to explore it in this way? Why are we revisiting the show like this? I mean, sure, everybody likes to just hear their favorite crap recapped.
No, I mean, yeah, there's like a lot of shows about The Simpsons, and it's always like, you know, this is funny, this is not funny. I want to get to like the psychological root trauma of these characters. I mean, there's no one author to The Simpsons. I feel it is kind of the collective trauma of boomers.
Yeah.
This pool of writers, like kind of like pooling their issues with their dads and like their experiences growing up, kind of became The Simpsons. And
every awful character in The Simpsons fought in World War II.
Yeah.
You know, like Burns somehow makes no sense at all. Grandpa Simpson, and presumably the fathers of all the other like deadbeats that Homer's friends with.
Exactly. An experience like World War II would totally traumatize you and shape who you are. And that's why Abe is the way he is. And that's why Burns is the way he is. Abe, his point of view makes no sense right now. What war did Abe fight in? What war did Herman not fight in? What war did Seymour Skinner fight in? Was he in Desert Storm? Who knows?
Grenada.
Do they explain it? I mean,
yeah. So what we're looking for here is an understanding of this portrait of the American psyche, like you've said before, because The Simpsons they're sort of like a shorthand for understanding America at large.
Yeah, and especially during that period in time.
So we're going to try with our episodes to fix hard dates to episodes, but it's not always possible. What can we do? What can't we do?
Yeah, well, it will eventually become impossible because A, the show is getting wackier, and B, the kids aren't growing up. So Lisa graduating high school and moving out sometime in the 2000s is going to be a huge problem. But I mean, we'll have to put on our thinking caps and we'll have to make our mental gymnastics and try to solve these problems and apply our comic book headcanon
as best we can. Mm-hmm. You know, I like to think that future episode where Lisa sees the fortune teller and sees the husband she might have, that is actually a very strong indication where the Simpsons are going, you know, flying cars aside.
Yeah, and that episode happened 10 years ago in our canon, so...
Yeah, it was really about Brexit. So now that we've kind of given an overview of what we're trying to do on the show, let's talk a little bit more about ourselves. Why would you want to hear us talk about The Simpsons when there's so many other 90s kids who were, you know, profoundly shaped by this show? Who are we and how do we know each other?
Well, I was in a bunch of bands and I remember you would come and see my bands.
Yeah, I would see your bands, and at first I don't think you liked me, but eventually somewhere down the line, like, you started making Simpsons drawings, and I said, wow. No, I mean, I think there was a zine fest or something going on, and you called out to me, probably because you weren't selling anything.
Yeah, well, okay, the band thing stopped happening, so then I became just the guy that drew the flyers
Yeah.
floor bands, and then that became doing zines.
And the thing is, at the same time as you were making that natural evolution at the time of a greater Southern California punk scene circa the late aughts, let's say, I was the guy who bought a little cheap recording device from Guitar Center and was taking it to shows and recording bands with or without their permission.
Mm-hmm.
And I might have even, I published a little bit of that stuff under some really terrible like DIY record label stuff. So that's like our background. We're both very much coming at The Simpsons from a punk rock tradition, which I think is it's very appropriate. Matt Groening
he's got the cred.
Yeah, he's part of the LA punk family tree.
Yeah.
So anyway, the thing that really sparked our friendship and this project was years ago. You went on a trip to Portland that ended up inspiring you to devote your life to Simpsons fan art.
Yeah, I was doing a zine fest in Portland, and there was just this mystical moment where I got off the train and there was this 30-year-old guy on a skateboard with a red shirt on, and he had spiky hair and tattoos, and it just like hit me like a bolt of lightning, like, oh, this is the real Bart Simpson. Because I knew like Groening grew up in Portland, and all the streets are named after the characters. And so then at the zine fest I was just sketching like, oh, what would like an austere like King of the Hill-ish real life version of The Simpsons be?
Yeah.
And people dug it, and I made like some zines, and I did a lot of posts, and then AI kind of happened, and now you could just make a prompt that just says make realistic Simpsons. And but I put so much work into The Simpsons that I still want to explore this concept, and I think doing this podcast is the next evolution of it.
Yeah. So we stayed in contact for, the better part of the decade. And then recently we went to Pinocchio's Italian Deli in Burbank. And that's sort of where the idea to do a podcast came from.
Yeah, we wanted to make it all about the characters, and just different from other Simpsons podcasts where they kind of just like chronologically go through the show like those books that you pick up that like just like
like the season 1 through 10 handbook or whatever, those kinds of things.
Yeah, most of the podcasts are just like
giving you all the fun facts, repeating all the best gags, which we do a bit of that too, though I think we're in a little different, like we're in our own nostalgic headspace when we do that, but I'll get into that more in a moment. We were talking about podcasts we liked, podcasts we didn't like. It wasn't that we were even having a conversation about how would our good Simpsons podcast be. We were just talking about podcasts, and suddenly you, the world's most enthusiastic man, said, "Oh, we should do a Simpsons podcast."
I mean, it just made sense. I've been wanting to do podcasts. You've been wanting to do podcasts. It's like the most common ground for us. You're the X-Men expert. I'm the DC Comics expert.
Yeah, those two things would never reconcile.
Yeah. Simpsons is like a Geneva for us.
Yeah.
We could kind of the things you're interested in and the things I'm interested in. I'm interested in just like building these headcanon things. You're very good writer. You're very like meticulous with your notes, and like a lot about audio stuff that I don't really know about. So
yeah, it was, I think, a chance for us both to basically move on from the 70s and start talking about the late 80s with regards to our little hobby projects. So that was where Evergreen Simpsons came from. We were sitting at the Italian restaurant making goo eyes and trying to come up with a good name for the show. And we both agreed that it needed to be reverential and referential. Mm-hmm. And somehow, after a couple really terrible ideas, Evergreen Simpsons, you blurted that out. And I loved it because working in broadcasting, I love the concept of an evergreen, a show you can play anytime, which is what The Simpsons is. And, it refers to Evergreen Terrace, and it refers to the enduring emotional core, I think, of the original series, because that's what makes the original series worth watching. Is it's about a family that loves each other.
Yeah, and the move to the suburbs is a big deal in the show. It's kind of where all the problems start happening for Marge and Homer. It's the socioeconomic climb from being poor in an apartment to a house you can't afford in the suburbs. And there's always like an uneasiness about class and about like their station and always comparing themselves to other families. And I don't know, would they have been happier if they stayed in their first apartment? Who knows?
Yeah, and they even have a reputation that precedes them with the Rubber Baby Buggy Bumpers babysitting service. They're blacklisted.
Yeah, but they're not also totally not poor. They rub shoulders with the mayor and Burns and kind of like middle class doctors, the Reverend. You know, they're not a poor family. Sometimes they feel that way, but they're really not.
So how do you think The Simpsons has impacted your own cartooning and writing?
Simpsons is an enormous influence. It's like the same way Nirvana broke culture into the mainstream, or like how, you know, LA punk kind of trickled into the Pee Wee Herman show. Whatever was going on in LA kind of latched onto The Simpsons, just like the colors of the show was punk rock.
Yeah.
I mean, there's just those pinks and the greens, and all the merch that came with like The Simpsons was just, it was like nothing. It was no other cartoon looked that way. It was just so in your face and just like neon and pink and just like X-ray specs and like punk album covers on TV.
Most of the characters never wear nice clothes.
No, and some of the characters are just downright ugly and unpleasant to look at.
Like Barney.
Yeah.
Mo.
There's nothing like it on TV. Like, if you grew up on Adult Swim your whole life, you could not understand how all-encompassing The Simpsons were. Like, there wasn't even anything close to it until South Park in 97.
Yeah, pre-existing family sitcoms were like The Waltons.
Yeah, and it was a postmodern inversion of that paradigm.
Mm-hmm. For me, it's completely affected my ability to communicate with people. But it was a repository of cultural shorthand. You know, there was so many movie references I didn't realize were there. There were so many historical references I didn't realize I learned from The Simpsons.
Yeah.
And it spanned decades to where it was almost like a children's like golden book, just laying out the broad strokes of American history from, let's say, vaudeville, start with, you know, pre-1950s culture and golden age Hollywood worship, beatnik and yippie attitudes. It worked its way through that. And that kind of humor has been mined over and over again. We make references to things without even realizing we're making a reference, because we're making a reference to The Simpsons, which is making a reference to something else.
Yeah.
And it's sort of a great American songbook is actually maybe a sexier metaphor than a children's golden book. And then it's, to your point, it comes out of the punk cinema of the 80s, the same movement that brought movies like Brain Dead or Repo Man.
Yeah, and it's just like where a kid learns about Citizen Kane or 2001 Space Odyssey, and then you see references to like movies you actually know, like they reference Batman, and then like it kind of like triggers you. You're just like, I know that reference, like Star Wars, I know what that is. And then you just start picking up on like, oh, maybe that's a reference. What movie is that from? And then you get into movies, and then you watch like Cat on the Hot Tin Roof, and then you're like, wait, this is from The Simpsons.
Yeah. Growing up in the golden age of network television syndication, you would eventually see a lot of those movies if you were going to stay home on a Saturday afternoon watching Channel 13.
Yeah, or TCM eventually. I mean, movies just meant more back then.
So these references all kind of caught into the key years of our Evergreen Simpsons timeline. You know, we're going to be revisiting over and over again World War II, the mid-60s, the mid-70s, the early 80s, the Bush and Clinton era. We're going to be thinking a lot about Jimmy Carter and Richard Nixon and even fucking Ronald Reagan. And I also want to add, we're going to be looking at the Gilded Age too through Charles Montgomery Burns' eyes, who is like the grandfather of the sliding timeline.
Yeah, Burns has a foot in the door in like that Heaven's Gate kind of world I love. I mean, he's like a little bit of Rockefeller. He's a little bit of like Chase. He's just, you could tell the intellectual people that worked on the show, like Conan, people that loved history, just loved writing for Burns.
Yeah. I love the episode with his teddy bear where we flash back and see him as a child. And also the one with his son, Larry Burns, where we flash back to him. He comes back from college or a war or something. The point is he like meets up with his old like teenage sweetheart and decides that he's more into her daughter.
Yeah. And they go see, that happened in 1939 because they watch Gone with the Wind.
Scandalous.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be an interesting episode to just do like the history of Monty Burns.
Yeah. So, how effective do you think The Simpsons was in mythologizing these key eras of U.S. history? Do you feel like you actually somewhat reliably or at least relatably to the rest of the mass culture, do you feel like you got a grasp on U.S. history just from watching The Simpsons?
Not at the time, but definitely looking back. I mean, there's so much Watergate and Kennedy assassination nuggets in there. The other day, I forget what. Oh yeah, I know what episode I was watching. I almost did a spit take because that episode where Lisa's the beauty queen and the girl who won the competition gets hit by lightning.
Yeah.
So Lisa has to be like really fast sworn in, and they frame it.
Yeah.
They frame it just like Lyndon Johnson standing next to Jackie O, and Marge is in this Jackie O pose. And
that's a really fucked episode.
I just thought it was hilarious.
Yeah. Okay. So do we have an in-universe reason for not covering stuff past a certain point? Like, what's our excuse for saying we only want to talk about the good stuff?
Well, it is that excuse, but also the primary reason is Bart and Lisa around 98, 99 are gonna graduate from high school.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, it's really hard to wrap our brains around that. And also, the people that made the show kind of acknowledge the episode, The Principal and the Pauper, as the turning point in the show, where they just stop caring about the show's continuity. And it's almost like an FU to the audience, like people that pay attention.
You know, at the time, that episode, you know, I was, I don't know, 8 years old or whatever. It didn't bother me at the time, but I kind of get it now.
No, it actually did bother me at the time. Like, I watched, it's like one of those.
Because you were 45 years old.
No, but it's like one of those situations where it's just like, oh, I didn't like that.
Yeah.
But I mean, there are nuggets in, you know, later seasons that, you know, if they're pointed out to me and they make sense on our timeline, I'm open to it.
Yeah, right in.
This is a living document.
Is ours more like Marvel's timeline or DC's timeline?
Well, I mean, as it currently is, it's more like the Marvel timeline where it just keeps moving and, you know, every character has like a 10-year history and they just kind of move with history. I mean, as a DC guy, I prefer the DC clean slate that they do every 10 years. And I would actually find it compelling if the show just said, F it, you know, we're rebooting the show. And then you could reintroduce the characters. You could like just jettison problematic characters.
When you say problematic, you mean like racist characters or characters who fuck up the timeline?
Yeah, both. I mean, like you don't even have to justify Apu. Like he never existed in like the post-crisis Simpsons universe.
Ooh.
Yeah, and it would be a funny episode. Do you watch the show now?
Every once in a while I see some new Simpsons, like a little bit of it. And what I've gathered is like in the last 10 years, it's gotten better than it was in like the 10, 15 years before that. Like they've found the emotional heart again. It's just, it lacks like the edge for the most part is what I intimate.
I've watched the last season and it's very weird because like all these animated shows have their own lane. Like South Park's this, you know, libertarian thing, and like Family Guy's a joke a minute pop culture thing. And, you know, you have all these like random like punk energy Adult Swim shows.
King of the Hill is the learning show.
Yeah, King of the Hill is like a throwback. Simpsons is like an institution into itself. Like it's obsessed with its own history and it's like obsessed with its own references. So it's like a feedback loop of its own references to itself.
Huh.
Like there's so many like background little jokes that reference past episodes in The Simpsons as you watch it now that it's a totally unique show. Like it's not necessarily like funny or like edgy, but it exists for its own sake.
It sounds like it scratches a certain itch for the Simpson collector mindset.
Yes, it's made by fans now.
Yeah, in the same way that X-Men is made by X-Men fans now.
Kind of, yeah. It's like the same place like Star Wars is now, and it's like the people that grew up with it and care about it are making it, but they're really precious about it. So it can never break the ground it once broke.
Yeah, because it has to hallow that ground.
Yeah, and also like the competitors can do that. And
yeah.
Same situation Star Wars is facing, and kind of Marvel's getting there too.
So then what are we trying to achieve with our documentation in the Evergreen timeline?
We're just trying to get back to
America first.
Like I said, the characters first. The circumstances that made Homer, we want to just like get back to that. Not so much the cartoon character, but the cartoon character is an avatar for this idea of this boomer man trying to make it in the world, and his wife, who's also trying to make it in the world, and the shit they had to go through, and they're trying to protect their kids from themselves and the big bad world. And that's the show Groening wanted to make. He didn't want it to become this wacky thing, but it was like a wave he couldn't break.
Where the episodes necessitated a never-ending string of bizarre concepts instead of it's just something like the Simpsons get a dog, Bart gets an F.
Yeah, I mean, he wanted the characters to age in real time. He wanted it to be much more like King of the Hill, but there comes a point where you create something and it's just like too big to hold on to, like it's a enormous balloon.
Yeah. So after having done almost our whole first season, which we're just going to be focusing on the flashback episodes. To clarify, those are episodes from throughout our, selection of first 9 or 10 or 8 seasons or whatever we end up going for. But these are the episodes where Marge and Homer explain to the kids something that happened basically before season 1. So now that we've done a couple of those, what do you like about doing the show? And I'll say that for me, what I like is that it takes me to like a certain rarefied headspace where I kind of feel like I am in that time period we're talking about.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I mean, we both love Bruce Springsteen.
Unfortunately.
And I bring it up because like the episodes we are covering cover 1975 to 1989. And that's kind of
that's more or less
body of work.
The E Street Band's original run. I mean, you fudge a few years, but yeah.
And it's kind of fun because like wherever like the characters in his songs are, that's kind of where Homer and Marge are. They're just like two kids trying to make it in the world, and then they can become overwhelmed at some point, and then the darkness comes, and then hope prevails.
So how do we end this one, Felipe?
Damn. Okay. Usually I make a reference to like how the episode we're talking about actually ended, but The Simpsons has no end. It's just going to keep going.
You'll never stop The Simpsons.
And hopefully this podcast will just keep going.